Hey guys, welcome to TGS. We have a American. So this is Dan.
Hello.
He came over for our TGS game shoot, and I'm going to take this opportunity to do a video with him on UK versus US traditions, customs, gun culture, shooting, sporting clays, game shooting, and hunting. And I'm going to do this all in an hour and 20 minutes because we spent a lot of time talking, and both of us don't really ever get to the point. So we've got an hour and 20 minutes starting now to keep us on pace.
Okay, sounds good.
So let's start. You've been here for a week and a half. What do you think?
I love it.
Yeah?
Oh, I do.
Expectation versus reality, UK versus the UK you thought it was going to be?
I didn't go in with too many expectations. I was just going to let it roll.
Let's go with like any culture shocks. That's an easier one.
Well, only from the standpoint of the whole driving thing.
Yeah.
The right-hand drive on the left-hand side of the road, and that took a couple of days, but then I feel comfortable with it, but my fear is that I go back home and I'll wreck.
And you'll smack your hand into the car trying to get to the gear stick.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, culture shock. Not really. Everybody seems to be really polite, for the most part. I don't think I've run into anybody that's been cross.
There's some great irony that actually we see that there's sort of a stereotype that we think that Americans are significantly politer than us, and you go over and everyone's really nice to you, whereas here everyone just grunts at you and tells you to piss off.
Not had that happen
Apart from the gun
yet.
shop where you can only expect happiness.
Okay, sure. Maybe a couple of drivers that the one thing in the States with regards to the cars and stuff and driving, pedestrians have the right of way. As my old man used to say, they could be dead right too, because you walk in front of a car and the car doesn't stop in time. Well, you're losing, and but here it seems like everybody does. It's the survival instinct actually kicks in as opposed to back in the States where they think they can just
Yeah, and I think our laws sort of state that if you get hit by a car, it's probably the car's fault unless you can prove otherwise. However, I think people just don't want to get hurt.
I think so too.
Yeah, I think that's quite a wise thing overall.
Oh yeah.
So let's start. You started off your trip with a trip to the Sporting Clays ground with Dave.
Yes.
How does Sporting Clays weigh off one against the other? Because obviously we talk about in all of our videos for guns for use on Sporting Clays layout. You went to a local club, G&L Clays down in Gosport. How'd it weigh up? Well, I'd call that quite a club level shoot.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
I liked it. It's actually the first time I've run into what I call a club level shoot. Back home, I I'm the match director at our local club for Sporting Clays, but something about that. Well, I think you have a little bit more ground and more stuff because at our place we're kind of fixed and we have a sort of a linear setup. We have a line and we have throwers that just allow us to throw straight out. But then of course we have places like Hunting Hills and Nemacolin and places like that are commercial. Commercial.
Where are you from?
Morgantown, West Virginia.
Okay, because obviously in America there's massive cultural pockets around the place.
Sure.
Everything varies state to state, sort of, from what I understand. Yeah, you can probably correct me on that. Is that true? Is that right? Every state is kind of different, gun culture-wise, hunting culture-wise.
Yeah, more not as probably not as much the culture as the laws.
Okay.
The laws vary considerably in the States from state to state, versus as I understand it here in England, it's pretty much it's a national,
which has positives and negatives certainly.
Right.
Positives and negative connotations. But sorry, carry on.
But we do have laws at the federal level, like with regards to firearms and things along those lines, and then in state by state, and even you can even have county and city level laws that put potentially more restrictions on.
Okay. So back to the Sporting Clays. Carry on. Sorry, you were talking about you have your club, but there's other clubs too that are a little bit more varied, perhaps, than yours.
Yeah, and those are actually more commercial. Those are actually commercial venues. They're not a club setup. And it was nice to see a club setup over here it'd be nice to see a commercial setup as well, just to see
Well,
how
they
much
are
the
kind of
variance-
synonymous with each other because they do compete. A lot of the clubs that we have are restricted more by planning permission and everything else. So that club would probably operate every day if it could, but we're allowed 28 days or under 28 days of use before you need to get planning permission and people can actually substantiate their noise claims.
Right.
Because obviously guns are noisy and people don't like that.
Yeah, and we have actually in West Virginia, we have a law that protects existing gun clubs from litigation, at least with regards to
that's wise.
to the sound. Unfortunately, it doesn't. I don't know it protects us as much from other things that could occur. But
Well, it's one of those things. Move close to a shooting club,
yeah,
it's going to be noise. Move close to a racetrack, there's going to be noise. Move close to an airport, there are going to be planes. You know, I don't complain that my house isn't under a flyway, but the planes do come out of over Southampton Airport and come over us. You should get over it, don't you?
All right.
It's not the end of the world.
All right.
It happens. Difficulty level.
For the most part, nothing seemed too difficult, although arguably what I thought was one of the easiest stations, I only hit 4 out of 8, which just floored me. And then this last station had a very high teal, incoming teal, which scared the crap out of me when I saw it when somebody else was having to shoot it. And I just guessed at it the first time, and it worked, and I managed to repeat it twice, which usually that's my biggest problem. Is about the time you get to the third set or fourth set,
The attention's gone,
or you just start overthinking it.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I got to try a little harder and mess it up.
You said something interesting to me before that you'd never even shot a driven clay. Is that just not a common thing over in America? You said you never shot at driven targets before, that sort of overhead style.
Target. You don't see it too much. I think if at least to where I am, and understand that I do shoot a lot of clays, but I don't get around to a circuit. I don't shoot.
We all have our favorite grounds.
Well,
right?
And I don't shoot registered matches. Although, if sometime in the future, if time permits, I would like to get into a little bit of a competitive.
You're not bad.
Yeah, I'm all right. I can hold my own. I think most times.
You almost beat Dave, and Dave's all right.
Yeah.
I wish you beat Dave.
I wish I'd have beat Dave too. I also wish I'd have won the match,
but not your gun, new ground. 2 days after flying a load of miles, jet lagged. It's not bad. You put in a decent score, mate. You should be happy with that. As Dave came second with 2 clays higher than you. That's impressive enough.
Yeah.
4 away from winnings. All right, you take that. Anyway, so clays are fairly on a level. Clays are clay. Apart from that, your local grounds don't have many driven targets.
Okay, yeah. Right.
But I think a lot of that probably boils down to. I mean, I don't know about you, but sort of the whole sporting concept was designed originally to sort of replicate the birds that you hunt for practice, right? And it's devolved from that and changed a lot and got into more complex targets. I think FITASC has a lot to do with that, and it's great. It's all great. But I'm guessing since you don't have a huge driven hunting culture, driven clays probably aren't something that you guys really
exactly. Pretty much everything is walked up. I have seen. I was at one place where they were releasing the birds out of a house or something way up on top of a hill, which I guess in a way could kind of simulate
something.
But I mean that's that. But again, I tend to stay in my area. I haven't really ventured out too far, and I know that some friends that moved down, you get into bigger areas, especially like into Kentucky near University of Kentucky. I can't remember, Louisville. Mm-hmm. Seems like there's a lot more sporting clays. I mean, there's clubs that have.
How far is that from you?
5 hours.
All right,
it's about 5 hours away.
Yeah, you don't want to go down there for Sunday match, do you?
No. But I've got friends to visit down there, so I could catch a match in that time. But it's you find pockets of popularity, but there's almost not like you almost need to have forums. I mean, we have some forums that are out there, but I've not ventured into them, and it's just not. I don't think anything around us has a solid community. Whereas you get into some of these bigger areas where there's lots of people.
It's sort of self-fulfilling in that sense.
Right.
So let's go on to guns. But just clay guns for now.
Okay.
You obviously, as we all do when you're at a clay ground, had a little look at what other people were shooting, all this kind of thing. How does that compare? And you worked in a gun shop back home for some time as well, so it's how does our clay sporting gun culture compare? Similar?
Yeah, similar.
Or you see more
I
autos
think
at home?
I think I tend to see nicer guns, nicer over-unders. When back home, I don't see as many again, but that's in a small selection.
Mm-hmm.
But typically, it's just guns are for utility, and a lot of times most people don't want to. I don't think will put a lot of money into it. I mean, I think you run the same thing if somebody wants to get into sporting clays over here,
You don't need
and
to.
they're maybe not like super well to do, and they can just throw money around as they will.
Like you and I.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. They'll buy something that they can pick up for $400 or $500 brand new, and go out and give it a whirl. Now,
and you can do almost just as well with something like that. You can get 80% of the way to where you need to be with a cheap gun.
Right.
And even as an you have to spend a lot of money with a cheaper gun.
Right.
So you need to spend a lot of money to get a good gun.
Right.
But there is a level where I'm sure you probably agree a threshold of which that you need to be buying into to be able to shoot at that top level. That's a controversial subject, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you think more expensive guns are better?
I think they can be. I think it's kind of like, maybe race cars or something.
Yeah.
That you need that extra little bit to get you to the absolute top of your game. I don't know.
But that extra little bit costs a bastard fortune.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it's painful, or like the same thing with driving fast. I mean, you have to have a car. You get to a certain speed, and at that point, then you want to go 10 miles an hour faster. Instead of needing another 50 horsepower, you need another 200.
Suddenly, the balance and the handling of the car come into play a lot more
Yes.
inside of that 10 miles an hour, and so it becomes much more important. Yeah, I like that analogy. That works for me. If you like cars, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay. So, it's all pretty similar, one way or another. Hunting. Let's talk about hunting. You also came on your first driven partridge shoot, or first any driven game shoot. Go on. Talk to me. That must have been.
I loved it. It was a great time because I've seen plenty of videos on YouTube and the like of the different shoots.
Yeah.
Dave Carey and other
Field sports,
of course. Yeah, and so and it was great. And it was the thing that I was told is, well, I have a competitive streak that I try to make sure I turn off. And it sometimes but this was really easy to do that. I mean, I didn't hit nearly I fired more shots than I wanted to fire for the number of birds that I hit, but I think everybody kind of does that. But you're there for the social aspect, and that's what
kill everyone. That's not the point, right?
I enjoyed that just as much as the shooting aspect, because you get I don't normally dress, as you can tell. I don't normally dress terribly spiffy unless I have to. But this gave me an opportunity to dress up a little bit, and it was a lot of fun. Everybody was really fun to be around.
It was a great bunch of guys.
Oh,
really
it was.
lucky, actually.
Yes.
Really lucky. Because it can make or break a day, right? The quality of the company, as you can see, because it was so important. You spend all day with them. You do more talking than you do shooting.
Right. Yeah.
I think by the time that balance goes the other way, you're doing something terribly wrong.
Right.
Sorry, carry on.
But it was something. I mean, it's one thing to see it on TV or on YouTube or what have you, but it's another thing to experience in person. The going back to the actual shooting aspect of because, again, I've never done anything where the birds are coming right at me. It's always been walked up, and it's not been that many walked up. I've been on one walked up pheasant hunt and one walked up chucker hunt. One's chucker. It's pretty much a partridge.
A slightly bigger Spanish partridge. Yeah. Correct.
But I mean, it was just a great time. I don't know. I'm not. Sometimes I'm not the most eloquent person. Now, maybe if you had a coffee here with some of that special creamer or something like that, or to loosen me up a little bit, but
that could be arranged. No, I think that's sort of. as long as you had a good time, and that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's what I found is the more I shoot, the less, perhaps it sounds strange, the less I enjoy the videos of shooting, because it's good, but it just makes me jealous. Like, I just want to be there.
Yeah.
I just want to be there. I want the actual feeling.
And it was a lot. It was and it's in the same light of the other two hunts that I've been on, bird hunts that I've been on. It is a little bit humbling, because you think, oh, hey, you can usually in most sporting clays courses you can keep yourself on the 80s, 90s, or what have you. I mean, I occasionally break into the 90s, but usually I'm in the mid 80s or maybe low 80s or something. But it just doesn't translate as much as you would think. I mean, really hardly at all.
The base principles of how to mount a gun and shoot it obviously stay the same, but all of the drills that you put in place to be a good clay shot kind of go out the window.
Potentially pre-mounting the gun, or if there's I know there's some competitions where they have you tuck it under your arm and things.
They can be augmented, certainly. Yeah. It's a completely different subject. It's not getting into that, but they can be augmented, I think, so that you can keep the bulk of them, but you almost need to throw them out and then cherry pick the bits you want to build up, as opposed to dressing yourself down, because it doesn't. Mm-hmm. It doesn't help. Not on a day like that, anyway. I think certainly on sort of tall birds and high birds, it's just similar, because you can see it coming for a bit longer and you have that little bit more prep time. But on those partridge, which are like little missiles bursting over that hedge, and by the time you're on them, they're behind you, kind of thing. That was a good day.
Well, actually, now you mention it, I've been trying to think of how to set up at our club to be able to do something like that, where it's just like all of a sudden pops up over. And I think now, because I was struggling, because I see all these some of the grounds, some of the sporting clays and training grounds that are here in England, where they got the great big towers where you can run 10 throwers up all at one really time. Handy. That's crazy. I'd love to see something like that here in the States. But and I was been trying to think of that in my local club on how to not do something like not do that. Our club doesn't have unlimited resources, but it would be fun to have something like that. And actually, I might.
You see it at sort of the more sort of, even clubbing more to on any end of the spectrum. You just chuck a track behind a couple of fence panels and shoot them over the top, and you get that same, as long as it's close enough, almost in a teal sort of thing. You don't have that opportunity, but doing that kind of thing.
But when you said the hedge, it made me think of something back. It's one of the features that I never even thought of back at the club. So, thank you.
I look forward to it.
Give me a good idea.
It's gonna be good. I don't really want to sort of talk about it on any sense, not because I probably might come across like I'm deriding it, but there's something fascinating in American culture that, as we've spoken about already, that just doesn't translate, and that is the put and take aspect of hunting that goes on in America. Obviously, it's only culturally that I find it really odd. I'm not going to sort of deride it, because there's loads of people who do it, and I don't think there's anything wrong, and I haven't tried it. And as we've said, if you don't try something, you don't deserve an opinion, until you've indulged or at least learned. And that doesn't go for everything, because there are certain things that are obviously just morally abject in life. But I think certainly with anything sporting or hunt related or anything like that, culturally you need to indulge and learn, or else you will never truly be a well-rounded sportsman, at least if anything else. Put and take hunting. How do you feel about that? Firstly, if you can explain how it works.
Well, put and take, as your the term that you're using, and I understand, is the where instead of having driven hunt, or we have a keeper
semi-wild, if you like.
Yeah, they have a wild. These are kept birds to the point that they're up to the point that they're released. But what happens is an outfit will go and buy the birds and take the birds out. In many cases, the morning before the hunt. In some cases, maybe the evening before the hunt. And they will place the birds, and usually what they'll do is they'll do something to dizzy the bird temporarily, just to kind of
sort of so it doesn't get up and fly off.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think, with a little bit of work, some places could probably make it a little better and not be too run into too much added expense, because
there's always going to be, isn't there? Because you're going to, the longer they're out, the more losses you experience.
Right, and then in that case, well, then you potentially put that into your fees. For the
mind spending more. I don't know.
But at the same time, I know that on my first hunt that we literally, one of the last birds and I hate admitting this, but we literally had to kick the bird.
Because they are used so unwild, I guess.
Yes,
Yeah.
unwild. Whereas you can go to certain areas where you can have much more literally wild walked up hunts, because I've had a friend now, Pat Bowen, if you see this, has been trying to get me to go on a pilgrimage to South Dakota and drive up there to shoot. I think limits 5 birds a day per hunter, but
pheasants.
you can pheasants, and it's on public land.
Nice.
And they actually I refer to it as a DNR, Department of Natural Resources. They might have a different term for it actually in South Dakota, but they'll populate to a certain extent. It's the same with fish. It's the same with fishing. We populate our streams. I don't know if you
we
have,
stock them here. We have we would triploid fish now more than anything. So sexually unviable fish. You're not sort of watering down the natural thing. Anyway, sorry, continue. Actually, no, don't wait. I presume this is because you have to buy a license as a out-of-state visitor to hunt pheasants in South Dakota, or where does that money come from to release those birds in the first place?
Well, it would come from all their hunting fees.
Okay.
But
do you have to pay a license for your 5 pheasant a day limit?
Yeah, you would have a license, and that's the other thing that's terribly confusing to somebody that, especially somebody from England. I'm not sure about some of the other countries if they pretty much have it's just all driven federally, and so there's just one set of rules. Every time you cross a state boundary, you've got a whole new set of rules.
Yeah, especially around hunting and conservation, which is I think it's good because it at least allows you to deal with your area and your issues, whereas in England we kind of have a bit of an issue in terms of that blanket ruling, as I said, is that things that need to happen on a micro scale can't happen because you need to go through so much paperwork, for example, to get a license to kill cormorants, even though on a national scale they might not be an issue. They kind of are in certain pockets. There's massive issues with them. So it's, again, sorry, doesn't matter. Continue.
I'm sorry, where were we, John? Help me out.
Pheasants.
The pheasants in South Dakota.
South Dakota.
Yeah. Well, we went that pilgrimage, but along the lines of your question regarding where does that money come from? It comes from the fees that hunters pay. As I understand it, here there's no governments that are helping to populate, in most cases, any kind of...
Can you imagine if any government agency in this country actually helped out shooting and hunting? How would they be derided? I mean, it'd be brilliant, but I think it's going to be certainly a real difficult one, actually.
But in the States, you pay fees for certain levels of hunting or fishing privileges, and I mean it can vary quite a bit. Like in West Virginia, you can get a hunter's license, you can get a fishing license, you can get a sportsman's.
How much are these things? Just
I don't know. But, well, it's probably around $35, $40, maybe as much as $50 for a sportsman's license.
And sportsman's license is everything.
That's pretty much everything within limits. I mean, that's hunting, fishing, and trapping. Although trapping's becoming very, it's a dying thing. I don't think there's many people trapping much these days.
And that's popularity or pressure, or
I would think it's an old thing. You know, some traditions will tend to survive and others don't. And this is something. But then also, I think with the people becoming a lot more sensitized to anything, everything. Yeah, and they might see this as being inhumane or something. And again, it's one of those things where you almost, like you're talking about, you almost have to experience it to get an idea. To
decide whether you actually
agree with it or disagree with it. Yeah. But back to the licensing, and I'll give you two really good examples. I'll give you West Virginia, and then I'll give you my experience with Kentucky. Because like I said, I have friends in Kentucky that own some property, and I've got to hunt down there in the last 4 or 5 years. In West Virginia, you can hunt under that license. You can hunt deer in archery season, rifle season, and primitive season.
With a valid tag.
Yeah, with the license, with that license that you paid $50 for.
But you need a tag for the deer as well, or does that license just allow you to go and shoot?
Well, you have to tag them once you're done. You have to put in a field tag, and then you have to call in and
Which costs extra or not?
No.
Oh, cool.
No. Yeah, that's all covered. You can buy extra tags because there's a limitation. For example, under that for deer, you can take one. You can take one deer in archery season. You can take one in rifle season, and the rifle season is only buck in this instance. And you can take one in muzzleloader or primitive.
Yeah.
But
which means shotgun with slug as well, or
no.
Just muzzleloader.
Yeah, just a muzzleloader. I mean,
Yeah,
shotgun with a slug would fall under rifle.
Oh, okay.
But and with the exception of the rifle season is buck only. And those other two seasons, you can take a doe or a buck, and you can buy additional tags for any of those seasons.
So once you've taken your one, so your $50 comes with a tag, I take it. So how do they know you're not lying? Is it on an honesty basis?
It's yeah.
And everyone I presume kind of respects that as much as humanity would ever respect anything.
Well, there is, and there's also people there are. We have our poachers too that don't pay for tags or have a tag or
shoot on ground that they're not supposed to be shooting on.
Oh yeah. I didn't know anybody owned this. Everybody owns
something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All property is owned by somebody.
Well, I guess I suppose it's viewed kind of differently because over here you can sell venison. You can't sell venison in America.
You cannot sell wild venison. Like typically, if you see deer sold in a restaurant or something along those, it's farmed and it's usually, I think it's a red deer. I don't think it can be a whitetail. I think it has to be like a red deer, like a stag.
Yeah. I don't know if whitetail are herd deer or they're more solitary. Small family groups opposed to herds, because farming generally goes with herd deer.
I've seen bigger herds around farms. I mean, I know certainly if you go into Ohio and into the bigger farming areas, I think you do start seeing herds, and there is an issue with that. Look, I mean, the people studying the effects of that, because one of the things that we have over here that I don't believe you guys have something that's chronic wasting.
CWD, yeah.
Chronic wasting disease. The first time I ever heard somebody in England say CWD.
Yeah, it's funny.
I was Chinese water deer. Yeah. I was just like, I was taken back until I finally figured out what that was. But
no, we're blessed that we don't have it currently, possibly never, hopefully.
But part of the thing that they see is when you get these big herds and you get too many of them together, it's unnatural and it causes it to spread.
Yeah, sniffing, licking, and generally spreading it.
Right.
I listened to a thing and they're saying that the first thing they do when they find CWD is go and kill 80% of the deer in the area, and that usually sort of nips it in the bud properly, because then it can no longer spread.
I've heard various things on the CWD issue, because there's
Is it a big issue?
Well, I guess it's not a big issue so long as people don't start having. It doesn't start actually affecting humans by consuming the meat. But I think
has it yet? I don't think it has.
No, it hasn't.
But it's a protein based.
Yeah, but it's a concern. So they tend to tell you to stay away from the spine and usually.
So you would eat a CWD deer?
Well, we don't have a check of it, because I think I've.
Can you get it checked? I suppose at that point the carcass is probably long gone anyway.
Well, I believe you could, because I don't see why that would be any different than. It would just be a lot of extra expense, and I guess it's kind of one of these things. Are you willing to take the risk if there is a risk, if there actually is any issue with eating meat?
You don't want to be the one to find out, that's for sure, right?
Well, I'm willing to bet you probably a lot of us that may have eaten something that might have been in the early stages, because you can't tell unless you literally have them checked out, and I don't know how early on in the disease it can be detected. I know that I've seen some videos, like maybe it was Germany
there's a zombie deer video from America of a really bad case of one.
Oh, they walk in circles or do other weird things. But I think there's some countries in Eastern Europe or someplace like that where they'll actually take the head or something,
And
or
send something off, I guess.
And then send something off, and then they get clearance to say, yeah, that one's okay, and then you go ahead and proceed with actually eating the meat. But at that point, you probably still already paid for the processing, and you pay for that.
That's
other
a
fee,
cultural difference. You pay to have your deer processed a lot in America.
quite a bit, but
Yeah.
it boils down to the same thing is that. I don't want to say we're lazy, but we want to be as efficient as possible. We want to be efficient.
There as well.
Well, that's true.
That facility's there, you use it. Whereas over here, it's very difficult to get it. Well, you can. It does exist, but it's expensive and hard. So most people do it themselves.
And it's definitely not cheap. I have
hard, inconvenient to drop it off in this country to anyone who'll do it.
We're usually probably in the range of about $80 to $90 to have one processed, regardless of the size of it.
Not too bad, I suppose.
No, but then at the same time,
it's a few hours of your life that you could do it.
Well, yeah, you could do it yourself, and then also the thing is, it's like you want to be selective. You don't want to shoot the first yearling that comes along. Although the meat might be actually that much better.
There is less quantity.
There's a lot less quantity, so then you might get to a point where, well, in my case, I'm lucky. I've got a good friend he's a very well-rounded person, and among other things, he butchers. So I take it.
There's a trade-off there, I expect.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah. No, in terms of, I expect you owe him a few favours in return.
Oh, sure, of course.
Which is no bad thing. All right.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let's roll back.
Yeah,
let's roll back just
fine.
a little bit. Let's roll back to the differences in the things. So on this sportsman's license in West.
That's what I was thinking of going back to. Yeah, sorry.
Sportsman's license in West Virginia. This is usually the thing I'm the worst about. Remember I told you about tangents?
Yeah, tangents. Yeah.
I usually can't come back from one of them. But so you kind of got a feel for what it costs now, and usually if you're non-resident, you pay more money. That's a given. That's a given in every state. If I go to Kentucky, I pay more.
Probably rightfully so, because or else there's going to be price differences and buck quality differences and hunting quality differences, and you want to put people off from coming from next door to hunt all your bucks because your bucks are better and cheaper.
And then what happens is that
it
depletes
and then
yours.
You're going to have to go back there.
Right.
I mean, I find it fascinating that people don't completely abuse a public resource anyway. No, there's a lot of schemes and stuff in place to try and educate hunters not to just shoot every buck they see.
Well, in some cases, there's a lot of public hunting, and there's a lot of public hunting available.
And everyone wants a big buck.
And everybody wants a big buck, but then there's also the thing that's always scared me is you go onto public. You can go onto any land and be at some kind of risk, but you go onto public land, you have no clue who's out there, and we get into the blaze orange things, hopefully, and everybody's wearing blaze orange, and people aren't shooting at the first thing that moves, but that kind of thing does happen.
There, mate, because actually over here, we don't wear orange. You're not allowed on other people's land anyway. We don't have public land. So when you're shooting, you're generally on private land. There shouldn't be anyone about. Nobody wears orange or anything like that. And yet we are so very, very stringent on backstops. And we have this insanely good safety culture around rifles because we live in quite a densely populated place that you have to have a super safe backstop. You wouldn't even consider shooting if there wasn't. I mean, so to us, as a culture, it's always amusing that other countries, perhaps not in driven hunting countries, because there's a certainly driven large game countries, there's a difference there, isn't there? Because there is beaters and there's people and you're expecting people to be out there. But it's sort of amazing to me that you would even consider shooting something without a solid backstop in the first place, let alone worry that somebody was sat in the bush behind what you're about to smack. But I guess that's just I don't know.
Well, and it depends on
another cultural difference.
Well, if you're doing stalking versus a lot of the hunting, especially early on, at least in my neck of the woods, is stand hunting.
Tree stands.
Yeah, tree stands. So you're up in tree stands. So I mean, you got the advantage of elevation. So you're creating a backstop as opposed to if you're on the ground and you're looking for literally
and you're
a
hoping
hillside.
There's some lull.
Yeah. Again, I got us off on the wrong in the wrong direction. Kentucky.
Yes, Kentucky.
The difference in Kentucky.
Oh, we were even at the pilgrimage to South Dakota, wasn't it?
But we were talking about the differences in the licensing.
Yes, sorry.
That's because I think we got away from the South Dakota thing.
I didn't even finish that. So
okay,
sorry, we'll talk about licensing.
Right. That's right. But in Kentucky, you can buy a hunting license. The hunting license. Oh, let me go back to West Virginia real quick. I'm sorry, but real quick.
Yeah,
West Virginia, West Virginia, that also allows you to turkey hunt both in the spring and in the fall.
And there's a bag limit on turkeys?
Yes. I believe it's one in each season, if I'm not mistaken, and spring is gobbler only.
And you can buy tags
in the fall. You do not have to buy a tag.
No, but can you buy extras?
If you can, it might be one.
Okay. That's just, again, not about abusing the resource, using a fair.
But all that's covered. Like now, if you're doing bear or boar, that doesn't cover. Those are the few things that aren't covered at some level under the general sportsman's license. Kentucky.
So bear is a separate tag altogether.
Yes, it is.
And boar?
Yes, we have some boar.
Like wild boar?
Yeah.
Actual wild boar or feral hogs?
I've never hunted them, so I just know that we have a season for them, and it's down in about 4 counties down in the southern part of the state. But
interesting.
I don't honestly know the.
All right, let's go back. Let's count that.
Okay, so Kentucky, as a non-resident, and you have to take this for what it's worth because of the fact that, like we said, the resident fees and non-resident fees differ considerably. But in Kentucky, and it'd be this part is the same regardless of whether you're resident or non-resident. You get a hunting license. You can't hunt deer on it. You can't hunt turkey on it. I'm pretty sure you can't hunt bear on it. I haven't looked into it, but I'm pretty sure if you can't hunt the other two, you can't. You have to buy separate permits.
So what does the license cover you? Or is that just like, that's your base?
You have to have
that to buy the tag.
Squirrels and rabbits, I think, is about what you
good fun
get.
To be had with squirrels and rabbits. Yeah.
But still, like as a non-resident, I pay $120, I think,
to shoot squirrels and rabbits.
To shoot squirrels and rabbits. Yeah.
That's all right.
If I want to get a turkey stamp as a non-resident, I believe it's $50.
Okay.
And then there's the deer permit. Now, they recently changed it because they used to break it up, and it was kind of silly because it was like, oh, if you pay $120, you can shoot 2 deer, and then if you pay this extra $10 fee, you can shoot 2 more deer. Why not just put the fee together and just say you can shoot 4 deer? Mm-hmm. But in their case, that 4 deer you can actually shoot in any of the seasons. Whereas ours, there's some limitations. You can buy some extra things, but there's only so many that you can shoot. Like in rifle season, the most bucks you can kill would be 2 in rifle season.
Mm-hmm.
Now, actually, but in Kentucky though, you can kill 4 deer, but you can only kill 1 buck a season, and that's another thing. That's a big thing that jumps around, and the quality of the deer, and especially when you're looking for bucks and stuff.
I presume that's changeable on season. If they did a survey and they go, crap, man, we've got twice as many bucks as does, they'll change that to kill. That it's flexible.
Yeah.
And there is a board that actually takes this into account.
Yes.
Do you have a lot of deer? Like in my head. So, for example, if you opened up any area in this country for public hunting.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say the New Forest, for example. We're close to the New Forest. You said to everyone, all right, you can go shoot that now. All it's going to cost you is $50 for a hunting license. There'd be very little deer left. I think, you'd have to ban the sale of wild venison, or else somebody would just go out and kill them all because it'd be worth a lot of money. But I think even then, it's got to be, in my head, there is not a lot of deer. Whereas here, currently, we have a massive overpopulation of deer nationwide, or certainly locally. Mm. Is there a lot of deer? What's the success rate? What's the chance of seeing a deer, let alone killing one? Let's go with that.
More days I see deer than I don't, but sometimes it's not, I'm not looking for a doe today, I'm looking for a buck. But it's kind of funny.
That's stalking it.
Yeah.
Shooting it.
But it's kind of funny, though, that we have, just, like I said, these things where things might overlap, or that you have so many deer that you can take, and I'm like, well, it's there. It's not going to really disturb anything because I've shot a deer standing right next to another deer, and it just kind of like,
yeah.
And then other times they'll take right off.
Yeah, well, they don't read a textbook, is what we say.
Yeah.
They don't know what they're supposed to do. They haven't been told.
Right.
I love shooting deer purely based on the fact that nothing is ever the same.
Yeah.
And you say you can shoot one and the rest will stand, or you can shoot one and everything will run, and then within 2 minutes they'll come back out into the field. There's no set rules, is it? It's just wildlife involvement.
Right. But we have a lot of private. I mean, there's a lot of private property. Like that's all you basically have really here.
So there is deer strongholds potentially. It's not like everything is a free for all. Not that I figured it was, but
no.
Generally there is people who guard the resource for the betterment of deer, I presume.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, ethical sportsmen, and then obviously the DNR. There has been some arguments because of money, of course, with regards to if they were to take away, like currently in West Virginia, you can kill as many as 3 bucks. If you get all the tags and everything, you can kill as many as 3 bucks in one season and a total of 8 deer. So it'd be 3 bucks and 5 doe.
That's a lot of meat.
That's a lot of meat. Now, I don't know too many people that are going to be out in the wood that can dedicate that much time or are going to be that lucky to be able to just be knocking them down it's in that level.
There's some kind of great thing there that 8 deer is considered a lot of deer to shoot in a year for you.
Yes, that's an insane amount. 4, I think, is the most I've ever killed in a season.
You want to know how many deer I've killed this year? Then that is a huge cultural divide, actually.
Well, I don't have a problem with that. If I could shoot if I was legally allowed to shoot a deer every week and I could use the meat, why not?
There's a lot of it. We sell meat, and there's a lot more deer management that goes on here because we say deer management, not in terms of herd management, but in terms of deer control.
Right.
Deer management. There's a lot of deer control that goes on here. So there's bits of ground that we go out on where the game is to take as many as possible because you could try to kill as many as you can, and it'll probably never be enough.
Yeah.
There's plenty of estates around here who'll be killing 400 a year out of, for a 3,000 acre estate, and there's a lot of it. And that'll be one bloke doing that. That's hard work.
Now is that run the gambit? Is that muntjac and roe deer and fallow?
A lot of that will just be fallow around here.
Okay.
That is I would say a problem species, but because they're a herding species, if the herd moves, you can't shoot them.
Right.
And they are notoriously harder to shoot than anything else because instead of shooting a roe are a bit thick. Shooting a muntjac are more solitary. If you are stalking fallow, you've got
lots of eyes,
a lot of ears,
yes,
a lot of outliers, and none of it's purposeful. It's a bit like red deer, but we don't have that many reds around here. There's outliers from the herd as well, so you'll be stalking in to try and get a shot, and there'll be one sat in a bush. So it's a different sort of thing. I don't know how I went off on that little tangent, but I think that's a cultural thing. Is that here, if you shoot single-figure deer, you're considered a hobbyist. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with shooting single-figure deer a year at all. Shooting what you can use is absolutely fine, but the professionals will view you as a hobbyist for shooting single-figure deer a year. So shooting 8 a year and thinking that's like a lot, I don't think there's anything wrong. I'm not knocking it, but culturally is a massive difference.
Well, I guess the other thing I'm wondering, because I don't know, I haven't looked into this. I take it the fallow deer around here are the biggest bodied of the.
Yeah, I mean we do have reds on the forest, but not that many people shoot them because there's not a lot of opportunity to more than anything, and it's not a huge population either. It's quite a set population. But yeah, fallow are the biggest. And
what would you say that those what would those typically like a fairly nice one that you're gathering? Let's say you're not necessarily shooting one for being a trophy deer,
a nice meat weight fallow doe.
Yeah.
70 pound
dressed out.
Yeah, 70 pound dressed out.
That's kind of probably. I mean, from my perspective, that's probably a little bit on the lower end of the whitetail, at least.
That's a good eating one. But you can get them go up. You can shoot a fallow buck that will weigh in at. It was 100, 110 pound dress. They can get big. Well, and the does can match that as well.
Right.
Rarer.
And well, I mean, and it varies too. It depends on how picky you are and what part of the country you're in, because there's different subspecies. But I know that my friend Bill, who has the property in Kentucky, one of the last big ones that he shot, I mean, it just looked like small cow with antlers. I mean, it was huge. I'm going to guess it probably dressed out at 250.
Oh my God!
So I mean, it was a really big deer. Now
I mean, shoot big reds. Big reds will weigh in at the same time quite happily, but yeah.
But I mean, short of, you start getting out into these places. You get into the right places where there's agriculture, and then you got
the
management,
feed,
where
management, everything. The trifecta comes together, and I know genetics don't have a huge part to play, but there is a good gene pool of good, strong animals.
Right.
Yeah, you can Like the same with fallow. You can get some massive fallow.
So, but if you're averaging, let's say though, if you shoot 4 deer,
Yeah.
that weigh out, 100,
100 pound,
150, somewhere between, 150, that kind of weight, then
That's
you
a
could,
lot
that's
of
how
meat.
many, that's, well, as compared to, let's say if you're shooting
Muntjac.
muntjac,
Which you could eat
but-
a muntjac in a day if you
Yeah.
worked hard at it. That's a bit harsh, but yeah, what's a muntjac? Of actual clean meat that you're going to eat, maybe 5 kilos,
okay,
10 kilos,
okay,
at a push.
yeah,
They're-
pretty small little rascal.
Yeah, a little rat, really.
Yeah.
But you shoot a nice row, going to be 15 kilos of meat, something like that.
Okay.
So you can eat a lot of row.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, again.
But there's the, but there's
not
the,
a lot, yeah.
but then your restriction. I mean, the other thing is, you have deer hunting of some sort year round here in England.
Yeah, fortunately.
We have a window, and again, it varies.
I suppose it's the control. That's the
varies.
ultimate control, isn't it? Is if
yeah.
you can only kill them for 2 weeks, you can only kill so many.
Well, I mean, bow season starts at the beginning of October and ends at the end of the year.
Nice.
So in theory, you've got 3 months.
But a bow is a harder thing to shoot with.
Oh, much, yeah. Generally speaking, I mean, there's guys that can take shots over, there's guys that take shots 40 or 40.
70 odd yards.
Well,
Shots you've seen.
yeah, and we
a long way.
talked a little bit about that and
a bit
what
like
my
taking a
thoughts
500-yard rifle
on it. Yeah, on my thoughts on
Yeah.
bow shots.
It's
It's
very
just like,
similar to
and I'm
mine.
talking about not as much. I'm talking about more like a compound bow and upright bow
Yeah,
as opposed to a crossbow.
I mean, that's when we think about bow, certainly. That's
Right,
yeah,
right.
Campaigns is sort of
and-
what we think about.
But typically, you're still talking about 40 yards, but there's a lot more skill to that, so the success rate is a lot lower because one, you have to get them in to that range as opposed
You
to
have to get into that range. You have to
yeah.
close that distance
Right,
somehow.
right.
And then you've got to make the shot.
Right, and now typically though, bow hunters don't stalk. There are some that do and can have some success, but by and large, it's stand hunting.
With bait stations, or with a bait station, or you just go over a highway and hope they walk underneath.
Well, that's another thing of where the laws differ because in certain states, baiting, you can hunt over bait. In certain states, you can't hunt over bait, but you can put bait out. It's. I mean, we
So
have
you can
such,
pull the bait in the morning and stand so the deer are coming and going, "Where's the dinner?"
But I mean, it's the same thing. There's other things. There's like a drive. We have done drives.
Mhm.
As far as I remember, they've always been legal in West Virginia. And it's where you get a certain number of guys going along in the same direction, and they're pushing something in, and you have a guy standing off here to the side, or maybe another guy off
Or in
to the
stands
side.
up the other side.
Yeah.
We don't drive them. We do fallow moves.
Right.
And sort of is one of the best control methods for fallow is to move them. So you
Right.
you have high seats and you have stalkers. And the stalkers will move the fallow while stalking, and the guys in the high seats will shoot fallow as they come through.
Well, that's more that's
it's-
maybe a better way of
Yeah.
better way of describing it because
It's not like you're not purposefully getting them to come through, and you're not
yeah.
Franz Albrechting them.
Yeah, no, we don't. I don't think we have too many people that are on his level.
Yeah, we'd all be that good if we grew up with it. No,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
harsh. He is a natural talent.
He is, but in some states that's perfectly legal. In other states, it's completely illegal. If you watch some of the I can't think of the name of the video or the TV show, Northwood's Law. There's this thing up in the Northeast where they follow some conservation officers along and
Yeah.
stuff, and you get to learn some of the laws as it pertains to that area. And drives are illegal, but they also have a definition of a drive. A drive is if you have more than 2 guys doing what we described.
Doing the moving.
Yes. If
Yeah.
you only have 2, it's not considered a drive. If you have 3 people with somebody sitting on a stand or whatever, that's becomes a drive, and that's illegal. And that's also another state where, and the thing of baiting, like if you take apples from an apple tree and you put them someplace unnatural. In some states, that's perfectly fine. In other states, it's totally illegal.
But you could sit next to the apple tree.
Yes, and as long as they're dropping right
Hence,
there.
I guess you guys have a much different a different approach is that you will plant deer crops. Right, as far
Oh,
as
yeah.
and
Oh, yeah.
plant orchards for deer.
Yeah.
As an attractant because it's not against the law, right?
Right,
And the more deer on your ground, the less deer on someone else's. So.
right. Or you can kind of figure out what you are. I guess in a way you're artificially. Well, it's the same thing with any kind of feeder. Whether you have a corn feeder that they hear the dinner bell when they hear the thing spinning around and it's throwing stuff out. And, but yeah, there's a lot of places where they'll put a lot of effort into. It's almost like it's a farming type affair, getting the crops for the deer.
Do people sell stalking or hunting then in those places? I guess there has to be. Is there, like here, can you say, I want to shoot a gold medal whitetail, have you got one? They'll go, yeah, come shoot my gold medal whitetail. Is that why people manage them, or is that not a thing? Like over here, if you want to shoot a gold medal roe, give someone 1,200 quid if they've got one, and they'll take you to shoot it.
I think generally speaking, I guess it depends on the size and the effort and what your real motivations are. Sorry, Sasha, I think I just moved the...
It's all right.
Not tapping my feet either. It kind of all depends on what the motivation is. A lot of times people just do it do it totally for themselves or for their friends or what have you, and it's just the expense of enjoying of that pastime.
Yeah. And if you probably boiled it down, it's probably reasonably priced sport at the end of the day.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially if you've already got, if you're already a farmer or something along those lines.
Chucking a few acres here or there is not going to make that much of a difference.
Yes. But then, on the other hand, if you have enough property and you put the extra time in to do that management, and you really spend the time, and that ends up becoming your motivation. But then that can occur. That can definitely occur, and it does. I mean, because money's always a motivator, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
But a lot of the reason we have such quality deer management in this country is the money that goes alongside it. If a buck wasn't worth what a buck was worth, you wouldn't have any good ones, because there wouldn't be any benefit to it apart from for the health of the deer and for the beauty of it and for the positivity of nature. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that has value, but not as much as actual cold hard cash. Right. Let's get off this subject because time is ticking.
How far along?
We've got half an hour left.
Okay. Sorry.
Let's talk about guns, because obviously we have very different gun cultures and gun laws, and we probably should have talked about for the most part instead of deer and shooting and that, although that's probably more our passion, probably equally so certainly, to the gun aspect. You're allowed machine guns?
In most states, we're allowed machine guns.
Are you in your state? You're allowed machine guns?
Yes.
Cool.
We are
What's it like to own a machine gun?
It's kind of funny. It's a lot of fun early on for yourself.
Yeah.
But as one of the first other machine gun owners that I ran across and conversed with, I've gotten to the point where what he was describing, which is, as you go along, you get more enjoyment out of taking somebody out.
That first reaction. So taking someone out stalking, taking someone out on their first partridge as we did, and watching everyone's enjoyment gave me as much enjoyment as doing it yourself.
Yeah.
Apart from the fact you pay for that ammo as there.
Yeah. And usually I'll take, if I take somebody out in that case, so I'm kind of outing myself for, yes, I do own a machine gun.
Do you feel, let's take a quick thing here, okay. How do you justify owning a machine gun?
It's just something to have. It's because the law says I can't. The law doesn't say I can't.
Yeah. And it's fun.
And I'm storing it properly,
safely
in
a secret location.
In a secret location, yeah. But that's what it boils down to. But then you also, it's something. You don't have to have a Ferrari.
No.
But if you can afford one.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you have one? Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, if I had that money, I'd probably buy something else. But I'd probably have a Ferrari along the way.
But
to look at, if anything else.
And some might argue, well, it's like,
you don't need a race car, you don't need a cart, you don't need a shotgun to go clay shooting, you don't need anything.
Yeah.
You need a loincloth and a cave and a spear. But we've progressed beyond that, and we're capitalists, so we can have what we want. No, I get that. I suppose that's just a very English way of thinking about it, isn't it? Mm-hmm. The justification. Because I've got to justify every rifle I own for a specific reason, and I guess that's just in my head that you have to justify everything to own it. And I am not pro machine gun in this country. I don't see the need.
Sure.
However, I would like to be able to go to a registered range and use one in this country, because I feel like at the same time that shouldn't be an issue.
Right.
Potentially.
And one of the funny things, though, and I'll try to be very brief about this, is that there's not very many machine guns that can be owned by civilians in the United States. There's, I think, maybe of 250,000, and it's due to certain laws that have been passed over the years that there's a fixed number of them. You can't have any more that go into the registry. It's what's called transferable. But as I understand it,
there's only a certain amount of machine guns in the US, or a certain amount of people who can have them, or a certain amount that you can own.
There's a certain amount that can be owned by civilians. Those are what's called referred to as transferables.
Okay,
and
so there is literally a maximum capacity of machine guns, so you can't create more machine guns. Somebody has to die to release their machine guns into the market, essentially.
Right, or sell them back into the market.
That's fascinating.
But now the thing is, though.
So can we just clarify machine gun? Because in my head, we're probably talking about different things.
A machine gun is basically
a fully auto.
In the United States, it's defined as you pull the trigger and you get more than one round to come out of the gun in that function of the trigger.
A fully automatic gun.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, you can get submachine guns. You can get.
So that goes from an Uzi to an MG42 to a 50 cal Browning.
Yes.
To anything that goes da 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 da.
Yes.
You pull it and it doesn't stop until it's empty.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fascinating. I mean, you don't have to say what machine gun do you own?
I own a registered receiver M16.
Cool. A proper old-fashioned M16. I take it.
It's not. Well, it's.
Or have you changed it?
Oh, I've changed it because
that's what it's for.
It's kind of the that platform, and also AR-15s is kind of the erector set for. And I think you guys maybe have erector sets over here or something similar to, or Legos or whatever. It's for adults.
Yeah.
Because there's so many things you can do.
Yeah, you don't need to be a qualified gunsmith. 1022 is the same. You don't need to be a qualified gunsmith because it is literally not put that bit in. All right, and I presume that with the AR or the M16, it's the lower that's registered.
It is the lower that's
registered. So you can change caliber, you can change everything on.
Yes, and so that's one of that's the appeal of that one in particular.
Your one registered machine gun can be 20 registered machine guns. Under one registered machine gun. So you can have a 300 blackout, 6.5. 223. You could have whatever you wanted based around your lower because
whatever will go through a lower. Yeah,
it's fascinating. What do you think of our gun laws?
I think they're a bit restrictive in most instances. In particular, with obviously, you get into the whole question of what do you really need a handgun for, and you could argue that till the cows come home on that. It's just some people say it's a right. Some people.
I don't really care about machine guns. I want to go play with them, but I don't. Feel, I said it when I was using them at ranges. But I'm not particularly. I do feel like we should be able to. I don't feel like anything. I'm a classic FUD mate. But I think that if I can use it for hunting, I'm cool.
But this was the topic where we needed Tom. Was it Tom? Remember we talked about Tom, the guy with the helped out with the. He was in one of the videos.
Oh, TJ Tom. Yeah, not TJ Tom. Tom from SRS Power.
Maybe, yeah, because I think he said he started down that path.
Yeah, and we cancelled that pretty quick. It's quite a political hotbed that has got certain other YouTubers in trouble for that kind of opinion. Okay. I am a proper FUD.
And that's fine. And I don't have as long as you're not trying to knock down my door to take away my stuff, I could care less.
I am a live and let liver.
Yeah.
If the world just was a bit more like that and was less full of assholes, we wouldn't have any issues.
Well, we wouldn't have nearly as many laws either, because usually it's all these assholes that are creating laws.
You could trust people to just...
Right. You can still leave your front door unlocked. And
yeah, that'd be great, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
if everybody had to pass a test and be a qualified not asshole,
yeah,
wouldn't that be amazing?
Well, sometimes I think it boils down to perspective too. One person's asshole is not another's, but
I think anybody who breaks into someone else's property, that's an asshole.
Yeah. The thing I was going to tell you, that since they enacted the registry for machine guns, short barrel shotguns, and all that stuff,
I guess there was pressure against that from pro-gun people.
I don't know about back in '34.
Oh, this is a long time ago.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's three main gun control acts in the United States: one in '34, one in '68, and one in '86. And I don't remember the details, all the details of them, but the one that started the registry for machine guns. That started just a registry, not the ban on the
cap.
The cap. The caps came in '68 on imports and '86 on domestically manufactured.
Okay.
But going back to 34 is when they started the registry, where every one of these things the government had to know exactly where every one of them was. And since that date, unless the statistic has changed, there's only been 2 people murdered with a machine gun that was lawfully possessed at the time it was.
I guess a bit like that. You've got to go through extra tests or stresses or financial extras to own one. So why would you risk it?
Right. There's a 200. Well, and especially with. Well, and people get kind of concerned about giving up their fingerprints and photograph and all that stuff to the government.
I don't know.
They'll find it anyways.
There's a mixture of big brotherism and sort of saying, "Oh, I don't want to," and then going, "Well, you're never going to need it,
right?
Because I'm not an asshole."
Right. Well, and that leads me into the thing that we both, one of the commonalities that we both have are moderators, but the difference being, in this country, they treat moderators the same thing as just a bolt-action rifle.
Yeah, and luckily they're actually making it even less so. They're changing the law, hopefully, or saying they've changed the guidance that now that they're just a thing. They don't worry about it too much. You need permission to own it, but it's not like a rifle where if you get rid of one, you need to replace it with another. If you're changing like for like a 30 cal mod for a 30 cal mod, send them an email, but that's it. So luckily, they're actually making it easier for us, which is wonderful.
Well, in the United States, the moderators the suppressors are considered in the same. You have to go through the same scrutiny as to buy a machine gun.
And that's because snipers use them in movies, I guess.
Yes,
Or
I think there's a little bit of there's a stigma, but then you also go back to the whole thing of oh shoot. Oh, John, I just had a brain fart. Anyways,
I'll talk for a second whilst your brain gets
Sure.
So the way moderators worked here is, Christ, when I was a kid, they were real hard to get. No one had them.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody wanted them because they were crap anyway.
Right.
And then probably 15 years ago, yeah, it must be about 15 years ago, they started to gain popularity and they started to be handed out more. And a lot of that was to do with, public perception changing a lot as well. People wanted to be a little bit more subtle about what we were doing.
Right.
As well as the other fringe benefits. It's easier to shoot a moderated rifle. They're quieter. You don't have to wear ear defenders. Your brain isn't ringing after. There's a lot of benefits to the side. And now we're at a point that if someone fires an unmoderated rifle, everybody sort of turns around and goes, what the hell was that? And someone turns up with a rifle that isn't screw cut downstairs, you go, I don't really want it because that's going to be a really hard sell. Because you want it screw cut because 98% of people is going to have a moderator on their rifle if they're using it for hunting. And that's purely, I think, now because if, like I said, the public heard a bang, oh my god! Whereas we have to be a little bit more subtle about what we do. Even though you still like pulling the trigger and feeling a gun actually go off is quite a nice thing.
Well, and that's, and we, that as in the more recent years, they've obviously become more popular because people find out, oh, I can actually own one of those. Okay, great. But then we have things called trusts. Well, like a trust, but what they had some law changes recently where it used to be that if you had, normally speaking, you can't share anything in the NFA registry, the short-barreled shotguns, machine guns, destructive devices, that kind of stuff, moderators. You couldn't. If you were an American citizen, I couldn't just hand you a suppressor or any of those other things and
so
walk
you
away.
could hand someone a shotgun though.
Oh yeah. Like just like I was just like if you
just like giving you a candy bar.
But you can't.
You can't do it with the moderator.
You can't lose control. No, you can't lose with all those things in the NFA. You can't lose control of it.
So if you explain to me quickly, because this is a point of confusion certainly, and something a topic of conversation that's come up quite regularly. Could I go to America and buy a pistol privately as a non-resident or even as a resident? How hard is it for you to go if someone came to you, not for you, so for example 2 citizens, 2 regular blokes,
right,
chatting at a bar, one's got a pistol, the other one doesn't, can I buy that from you? What needs to happen at that point?
Depends on currently it depends on what state you live in.
All right.
Currently there's no law against private sales of firearms.
All right.
In
What
West
do you
Virginia.
need to do as part of that private sale? Nothing.
As little as much as you want.
So
It's up to the
intelligent. You probably keep a record of where it's gone.
Yeah.
But you don't need to by law.
No.
Right, what about me? Could I? And I've no intention of this, obviously.
Right.
Obviously.
Okay.
I go to America. I go to some guy's got a pistol. Can I buy that from you?
I believe that would not be legal because.
But seeing as it's not registered or traced.
So you can do anything you want.
But it would not be within the law.
I don't think it would be within the law because from the standpoint of, I would think it would.
Registered.
Well, I think it would be. Well, the only things that are typical bolt actions and
Remy 700.
like any of the stuff that's not NFA isn't registered federally. It would only
Literally
be.
no one cares where it is.
Some states states or municipalities or something will require that you register it with them. Okay. So there is some other small registries, but there's not a federal registry of everything because that's where I think that's another thing, the Big Brother issue, and with the slippery slopes, and once they get power, they're going to take stuff and all that, and I'm sure I'll make a lot of people on both sides of the argument really unhappy when I say this. I would not be against a registry of more stuff in our country, but it would have to come with a constitutional amendment basically protecting the rights of the people that have anything in that registry, to basically say you can't take away classes of certain you can't just say we're going to confiscate all this type of firearm or from this group.
You keep your rights, but they know who's got what.
Right. And that the only way that they could use that registry is on a person by person basis.
It'd be nice if they go into a house to know if there's guns in it.
Sure.
See, I'll probably piss people off in the same. I believe the same thing. I like our licensing system. I like the fact that everyone knows who's got what, and the police know who's got what.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing illegal floating around, and there's a huge positive side to that. There is a huge positive side to that, and actually, why not? Again, it boils down to I'm not breaking the law, and I don't mean it in an I'm all right Jack way, but if you are going to break the law, you shouldn't deserve a gun. That's a very British thing. I see it as a privilege to own a gun, whereas you probably see it's a right to own a gun.
Right, with the Second Amendment.
And that's a huge barrier between both of our cultures right there.
Sure.
Is that I don't feel like certain people should be allowed guns too.
And again, though, the really the main difference in the again, I'm sure that any of my pro-gun friends will probably be staring at me cross-eyed the next time they see me if they see this video when I talk about a registry and being potentially for adding stuff into a registry. But again, if you put that check in there, that safeguard, that one safeguard, where you have a constitutional amendment, which is really hard to undo once you've done it.
Do you think that mentally ill people should be allowed guns as part of that registry?
No.
Cool. That's easy.
No. But
do you think people with depression should be allowed those guns as part of that?
That's an interesting topic because how do you judge depression? Because we run into a lot of these things where
medicated depression. Medicated depression.
That's a tough one, but on the whole, I would say if you have to be medicated to control something like that, I think there's the problem of what happens if you go off your meds. Who's there to make sure you're on your meds? And you can make I can make a lot of people.
It's a real difficult one. I don't
and I can make
anybody by having this conversation.
No, yeah.
It's something that it's not an issue in this country. It's something that happens in this country. Is that if you have depression, you will not get a firearms license. 99.9% of the time.
But I think I've understood, and I could be wrong, that you can, if you go through a phase where you're having problems, they might take your stuff away from you.
You get it back,
but you can get it back if a doctor clears you.
Yes, and they will usually have a little bit of a cool-off period as well.
Sure.
And I say a little bit, like a license term. It'll be 5 years, 3 or 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not against anything. I don't really understand the issue well enough, or I am too torn on the issue to put my opinion across without it being probably half educated and half baked.
Right.
Sorry. I don't know. I find the whole American gun thing. I do feel like we deserve, as England, a say in it, because unfortunately for us, we get lumped in as a gun culture alongside yours, even though people don't really understand the English gun culture or understand anything, but everyone sees America and goes, guns are evil over here. And you go, well, they're not. You don't really understand the guns over here mean a very different thing and have a massively different history, because obviously we are not a country of the people quite in the same context as you are. Whereas you fought for your country against us and then against each other. It's just very different, hugely different cultures. And
Yes.
I blame you entirely for a lot of the issues that we have in the public eye with our gun culture. No, not quite that bad, but I think there's an amazing thing, and we always say that if we didn't speak the same language, no one will give a shit about either culture.
Right.
They would be non-linked. They're similar enough, but there's so many differences that.
Well, I mean, there's enough gun cultures in other countries.
But people don't care about them because they speak foreign language.
Yeah.
It's
Pretty
not
much.
in the movies.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is always fascinating. But hey, let's move off of this rather contentious subject
Okay.
of gun
Yes.
control
Let's get on.
and
Let's get on to
licensing.
something where we don't get ourselves in too much more trouble than we already have.
Yeah, I started having like heart palpitations over the whole
Oh,
thing.
I'm not. I'm
Taking
just
a phone
gonna-
call any minute, being called out as a bloody communist, something like that. Well, it shouldn't be too far from the truth, but I do believe that the rights that we have in this country are fairly solid, and I don't care what the Americans do because it's your country and you're perfectly entitled to it your own way. But I kind of do agree with you that some kind of registry and any kind of regulation, as long as it is not oppressive and is not over complex, and it's not a bad thing.
No, wait a minute. We're talking about the government complex. Come on. I'm sure your government is no different from ours in that respect.
Yeah, no, simplicity wouldn't come into it, unfortunately. Hey ho. I know, we started talking about machine guns. That's cool. Are machine guns expensive?
They are getting there exponentially in an exponential fashion. I'll give you an example. The machine gun that I own, if you'd bought that when they first had the Gun Control Act of 1986, you could buy it for $500.
Mm-hmm. Ready.
When I bought mine, well, and I'll keep throwing numbers out.
Yeah.
When I bought mine in 2003, it was $5,000.
Which to me seems quite reasonable for a machine gun. For
Well,
the automatic rifle.
right, and the fact that the whole supply and demand thing. This isn't the same typical thing that you learn in school about supply and demand. Supply usually means more stuff's being manufactured,
No.
and it's just the rate it's being manufactured.
Yeah.
There's nothing to be manufactured. It's just there's a fixed number of these things being traded around, and as
I'm
more
guessing,
people.
like with anything, like any collectible in this country, is there'll be one bloke who has a disproportionate amount to himself
Right.
and doesn't care because that restricts the market further. It's not like you're fighting the fact there's not that many and everyone has a fair share. It's the fact that a couple of collectors probably have like 1,000 each or something, and then that's restricting it even further. And then you put emotion into the supply and demand chain, and that even blows it out of the water even more because somebody values their gun higher because it's got emotional value, not just the value
Right.
of supply and demand would dictate. And suddenly it's the constant spiral of things being worth 20 times more than they should be. Sorry,
Sure.
continue. What's it worth now? You paid 16 years ago, it was
I
$5,000.
could probably get it. I easily could probably get 15,000 out
Oh
of
my
it.
god.
Maybe on a good day, maybe as much as 18. But see, mine doesn't even have any pedigree. That's the other thing. Now back,
And this
like-
is exactly the same as a semi-automatic version, but just with a slight different trigger set.
it's
That's
slightly different trigger set in one hole. So basically,
Yeah.
you take in the eyes of the ATF, if you took that receiver and you put a hole, the right size hole in the right location, or even remotely close to it,
To click it around that one time,
that would be well. There's a few
Yeah.
extra bits that go in.
but it's not
to go in.
overcomplicated. It's exactly the same, bar maybe $10 worth of parts.
Something like
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
yeah. And but you put that one hole in the receiver, sans anything else. That's become a machine gun. That's and you've manufactured a machine gun. So nobody with any brains would do that. But that's really the only in their
What would
eyes,
it cost
that's-
if it was a fully semi-automatic gun?
Oh, fully semi-automatic. You can get those as cheap as I've seen some for under $400.
My God.
Yeah, just an AR-15, Just an AR-15. The cheapest ones I've seen recently are as low as like $369, $379. Now, you're talking about shooting a 4-inch group at 100 yards, which is
acceptable.
I guess just for something to go out and shoot.
We have a thing here called the DSC, the Deer Stalking Certificate, and there's level 1 and level 2. Level 1 requires a shooting test, and all it requires you to do is put 4 shots in a 4-inch circle at 100 yards prone, 70 yards sitting, and 40 yards off of standing. And any of those you can use supports. So you can use a bipod, you can choose sticks. Not even funny, I've got a customer, he went on his DSC, he said, do you mind if I just shoot all of them from 100 yards standing on sticks? And he just went bang, bang, bang. He says, look, do you mind if I save myself some ammo? I don't fancy shooting the rest. I go, that's fine. Because you can shoot like that off the sticks at 100 yards. Mm-hmm. But it was designed at a time when rifles were less accurate. Mm-hmm. A moderated rifle in a small caliber is like shooting an air gun. Sorry, continue. But no, anyway, I don't think 4 inches is that bad. It's, which what we call minute a deer.
Yeah.
It's not about minute of angle, it's about minute a deer. As long as you can put it somewhere in the brown bit in the front half, the thing's going to fall over.
Well, then there's that whole argument of, well, can you use an AR? And like, well, if you use the right caliber and you put it in the right place, not for deer, if we're just talking about
is there a minimum legal deer caliber?
Straight wall, in what, again, state by state.
Your state.
My state. Straight wall cartridge must be at least a...
Straight walled cartridge?
Like a 357 or a 44 or something.
Oh, non-neck down.
Yeah. Straight wall cartridge must be at least 355 or 35 caliber. 35 caliber. So
and that's a head, not a length. That's ironic, isn't it? So is there velocity that goes with that?
No.
So you go take a 38 special.
If you're an asshole.
Smack a deer.
Yeah, if you're an asshole.
What about?
But again, I guess
what about a neck down bullet?
Oh shoot!
Could you take a 223 and go shoot a deer?
I think legally you can, but most people don't shoot anything less than a 243. Mm-hmm. And a 243 will do the job if you put it in the right place. But I'm always
you shoot stuff in the head, it falls over pretty quick with a 223.
Yeah, but I just tend to stick with something that'll put a relatively big hole. So I stick with 30 caliber. Stuff.
I like big stuff.
Odd six
makes me feel more manly. Pseudo masculine bullshit, but I'm a great believer in it.
Well, no,
bigger bangs. I don't shoot enough not to get the maximum pounding out of my gun every time I pull the trigger. Right.
Well, I'd have a 300 Win mag if I wanted that.
Yeah,
a 338 Win mag.
Yeah, but that's expensive to shoot, so it's a fine balance. Something like a 30-06 is common enough that a box of Remingtons is only 22 quid, and I don't mind shooting it.
Right.
Or if I want to go nice, even a box of Barnes is only like 50 quid, but your 300 Win mag, you can add like another 30%.
Right.
Hey, anyway. Shooting, I'm going to go back to shooting deer quickly. Body, heart, lungs, heart, head, neck. Any particular preference as a society? Do people head shoot?
Yes.
Regularly?
Probably not that much.
Neck, so it's mostly heart and lung, I guess.
I think most people go heart and lung because if it's a little bit bigger target. I think if you know what you're doing and you're comfortable with it, that you might neck shoot, because I have neck shot one deer and it went clean. It went down very quick. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Ballistic tip versus soft point. Any preference as a community? Or do people not really care?
I think it just it's all over the place. It can be boiled down to just give me a box of shells.
That's my kind of guy.
Yeah, they're not too concerned. Hell, half the time
because they understand that if you shoot something with 100+ grains of lead going real fast, regardless of what's in it, the thing's gonna die pretty well.
Yeah. And then there's people that want to have that just for whatever reason. I want federal premium safari with the ballistic tip.
But I need this batch number.
On top of that, because that shoots that batch has shot the best in my gun so far.
I think anyone who gets that anal needs to buy himself a press. Start loading themselves, personally. But
I just myself. Federal Power Shock. 150 grain. Soft point.
30,
cheap.
Or 30-06.
Well, 308 or 30-06. I haven't brought out the 06 in a while. I've been shooting mostly 308 lately.
We call it 30-06. I'm not really sure where. I'm guessing that's just a cultural thing more than anything. Not really matters whatsoever. Let's go back to guns again. Handguns. We haven't touched on handguns. God, we're not allowed handguns here at all. you know, and we can own a straight pull AR. It's not quite the same. We can own a semi-automatic 2.2. But
You can have black powder revolvers, right?
yeah,
Yeah. It's not really a hand. I mean, it's kind of anti.
it's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of bang, a lot of smoke, and they're very fun. And they're a good target. They're not fun. They're a great target sports asset for something. They're awesome. They're great fun, but they're not the same. You can't shake the shells out afterwards.
Right. Exactly.
And you can't go pap 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 pap. And you can own a long barrel 2.2, and you can own a long barrel revolver with .357 or 44 or any caliber, to be honest. You can own long barrel pistol bolt guns as well, and there's big sort of bench press match shoots with those, but they're not really pistols.
So
Do you feel sorry for us?
In a way, but I mean, every society, again, it boils down to every society is going to have their share of assholes, and it just depends on how that society decides to deal with those assholes. If they decide to deal with them specifically, or they decide to punish everybody as a whole.
I mean, I don't feel the need to own a pistol. I never sit there at night and dream about it. I know there are certain people in our there's certain people in our gun community that do obviously are very pro pistol and very pro Americanization of our gun culture. I don't lie awake at night going, I wish I could own a machine. I wish I could have a go on a machine gun, and that's probably different. You know, there's certain sort of historic machine guns that I wish I could go on because obviously
the history, yeah, sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to have a go on many machines. I could list them all, but it's not really that exciting. But I don't know. Again, I'm fine. I'm happy with what I got. I don't stay awake at night going, I wish I could have a pistol.
Well, and it's what you grew up with. That's what it boils down to. It's the culture.
However, if they said you can't have a bolt action rifle, I go, that's shite. I need that. That's my. I feel like I feel like that's my right. But you know, I can see that there's a generation that could have pistols. They can't have them. I can see that there is. You wouldn't like it if someone took your pistols away.
No.
Because you've never done anything wrong with them. A bit like someone says, we're going to ban cars over 120 horsepower because you don't need them.
Right.
They're
just fuel guzzlers. Yeah.
I'll be against that. Yeah, you don't need them. But you don't need a house with more bedrooms than you have people. In fact, technically, you could probably do with two to one.
Well, in the States, we even have houses, occasionally, some of the newer builds I've seen, that have more bathrooms than they have bedrooms. Go figure that one out.
Well, to be fair, I don't guess in my toilet.
Well, no.
I have standards.
Well,
not really.
Well, I mean,
if you can get there's a certain degree of opulence that's acceptable, and then there's a certain degree of opulence that I suppose is equally as acceptable, because anything over a standard grey uniform, grey house, this many rooms, this many children, grey car supplied by the government, but no, you can't. It's a community bus you got to get on. It actually becomes, at what point? The human psyche needs to enjoy itself. We're literally geared for it, aren't we? I mean, our brains inject nice chemicals into our body that make us feel good every time something good happens.
All right.
And we're all addicts for dopamine, aren't we?
Sure.
And buying new shit and having good shit is a dopamine trigger.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with feeling good. And I think it's hard where you draw the line with any of these things as to how much opulence is too much opulence, how much waste is too much waste. I don't know.
Handguns. Did you have anything more specific? Sorry. Did you have anything?
Each other. This is what I'm trying to say.
Did you have anything more specific because I'm sorry, I'm a bad
I just had a midlife crisis on camera.
I'm apparently contagious when it comes to tangents.
Unfortunately, mate, I'm the same all the time. So handguns, yeah. What was the initial question?
Well, did you have any specific questions for me? I mean, we started talking a little bit about them.
Not really. They're cool, aren't they?
Yeah.
What's your favourite handgun?
Smith & Wesson M&P.
A fully automatic handgun is a machine gun, I take it as well.
Yes.
Okay. Have you shot a Desert Eagle?
Yes. Was not pleasant. It tried to tear my thumb. I swear I had a good grip on the gun, and I don't know how the gun got a hold of it, but I felt like it tried to tear my thumbnail off. It's not something it's not much fun. It's hard to hold on to because the grip is literally so big. I mean, I've shot other guns, like there's like a Smith & Wesson.
That's what she said.
A Smith & Wesson, one of the 500 Smith & Wesson Magnums.
Yeah.
One of those
obscene
huge obnoxious bastards. I shot snub nose, and that was not pleasant. But at least I could hold on to the thing. I mean, the Desert Eagle just literally like Now you might actually have half a chance with it because you actually get your fingers farther around it. But yeah, it was. I shot one, but that was a 50 Action Express. That, you know, a 357 one would probably be very manageable.
Yeah, I mean, inevitably, yeah. But if you're gonna shoot Desert Eagle, it needs to be the big one.
Sure. Just like anything else, if you're going to get one chance to shoot a machine gun, what are you going to shoot? You're going to shoot whatever the hell you think is the
bit like
coolest.
buying a V6 Mustang. It's just not a real Mustang.
No.
There's certain things in life you just can't cut back on.
We even make 4-cylinder ones. You know about the
we
four-cylinder?
have the Eco Boost.
Yes.
A mate of mine actually
Surprisingly
bought one. They're immensely fast.
Yes, they
Quite
are.
nice. Drives really well, but...
Handgun questions. Any more handgun questions? I'm sorry. I'm causing this as much as anybody.
I don't really have that many because it's not something I know a huge amount about.
Right.
And that's kind of depressing. And again, like I said, I don't know anything about it because it's not something that's pertinent to my life, and I feel kind of guilty because obviously it's probably something that you could talk about for hours on end, and I just go, yeah, you get the ones that you put the bullets in, and you get the ones you can fan, and you get the ones that you can do like this.
And then you have the ones with the belts that go along like that.
Yeah, and they look really cool if you hold two of them.
Oh, no, wait a minute. That's not the belts. I'm sorry, we're on handguns. I'm going back to machine guns.
I tell you what, that would be cool if you could, proper belt-fed machine. I just find it amazing you can own a belt-fed machine gun.
There's a few other countries that allow stuff like that. There's
oh mate, you can shoot them. You can shoot them on the continent. But they don't speak English, so this conversation will be really hard.
What's the place they have the? Packham had a. I hate to bring him up, but he had some.
You have your fair share of the same.
He had some kind of. He tried stirring up some shit, and it wasn't Morocco or. You're gonna bleep the shit, right?
It's alright.
Okay.
No, that's right. We're an adult channel.
Okay.
I think 90% of our viewers are over 18.
It was someplace, Malta maybe.
Yeah.
Malta. He was going to. People can own machine guns in Malta.
Yeah.
That's just
But
crazy.
you know what? The Maltese do so much for wildlife because they've had to, because obviously the pressures have been on over the last 40 years. Everyone hates the Maltese because they shoot birds. They've got insanely strict bag limits. I think they get derided. I think there was a figure on it. They shoot like such a small amount, like tens of thousands versus the millions of doves that get killed on the continent. Mm-hmm. Everyone hates them. It's just an easy target, isn't it? I just find the whole thing, it's mainstream media and I don't even like the word antis, just liars. Mm-hmm. Propagandist liars.
All right.
Who don't really understand something, but they make a good living out of it. Mm-hmm. And like, if you want to fight for a cause, I feel at least it should be a worthy one. Mm-hmm. And if you wanted to come to me and say, look, Malta do a great job, perhaps let's not leave Malta out of it. If you want to like pick on someone who kills too many of something, mm-hmm. go and find someone who actually does that. Mm-hmm. But Packham is a man who has an opinion about that, and I feel like his opinion is propagandist and wrong.
Do you think I found his trigger?
I think you might have.
John's trigger.
Retarded wildlife management. And like, it's hard enough to look after the planet and wildlife as it is without people telling lies, making people hate you, which is what it is, and just getting things wrong. Mm-hmm. Like getting stuff wrong, and I get stuff wrong all the time, but it's innocent.
Right. And there's just
like going
willfully getting it wrong,
or you say something about something and perhaps you were confused, but literally standing up and telling blatant lies about anything. And I expect you probably have it with gun rights and gun stuff, American. You certainly do, because I watch enough stuff to sort of know that it is. But
a lot of the arguments,
like fully semi-automatic.
Yeah, well, just that stuff. But at the same time, there's advocates for our rights that I think could argue things so much better. Mm-hmm. And it seems like it's the same old hat. I think that's the term. It's the same spiel,
regurgitated shite.
Just the same catchphrases and stuff like that. And it's just, I think it could be done better. I'm glad we have them, the big groups, and you probably know who I'm talking about.
That one big group owns every other group.
Yeah, but I just would like to see them argue it in a more enlightening manner.
I wish our groups would actually argue anything in the first place, to put anything across. But you are at least blessed with a larger community that fights very different fights to what we have to fight. Well, at least luckily they don't really come after our guns that often. Apart from recently, they came after our lever release guns and Mars guns, which was a bit harsh, because actually there is certainly a place for them. But hey, what are you gonna do? Nothing.
Nothing.
Because there's nothing you can do. Here's another one. And a final one.
Oh, I want to know about British people. I want to hear Dan's opinion on British people.
Yeah, what do you think of us as a culture? Like we said about culture shocks, but how do we weigh up against Americans? And you've seen a diverse selection. You've seen someone from Fairham. You've seen a few people from the country. You've seen some guys from London you met the other day as well. And you've even been up north.
Yeah.
And you survived.
Well, I didn't look like a. What was that? Was it a Springer? Was it a Springer that was mistaken for a fox?
Oh god, yeah.
Because we drove right by where that supposedly happened. Where apparently it did happen. Yeah. I'm sorry, it did happen. But the place Ryan was, or it was, we drove right by it. I'm like, really? But but nothing. I try not to dress up like a fox, although I've got an interesting picture I'll show you offline of a fox in the back of somebody's vehicle, and not a live one.
No, well, that's a good thing.
You'll get a kick out of this when you see it. But
cool. So British people. I
think y'all talk funny.
Everyone says we swear more and are more bitter.
Nah, I wouldn't say so. Maybe it's just.
You just hang out with a decent bunch of people back home.
No. I just hang out with a group of people that will tend to drop F-bombs whenever needed or whenever it's felt. But no, I honestly, to be honest, I don't see that much. I don't see really hardly any difference.
That's fascinating.
Because I'll go into what you guys, they're not Walmarts or anything, or even quite close to Walmarts, but you kind of get the impression that
you see
looking at you, looking at Sasha, looking at David, just most of them, everybody looks pretty fit. Well, when I see the gun shop stuff, everybody looks pretty fit. So I get that in my head. Well, I go around and it's like, I see just as many different sizes and shapes. I see all the same sizes and shapes here that I see back home.
I'm with you on that. I'm not convinced that English
So what you're saying is we need to put a decent cross-section on the channel of sizes and shapes.
That's definitely not what he was saying. I think what he was saying...
Listen.
That's all I heard.
I heard Jonny and Sasha are fit.
See, you've already got one. You've added one by me because I'm kind of shorter and heavier and...
You've got forearms that could break a man's whole body.
Maybe 20 years ago, when I was truly fit.
They're dangerous forearms.
You're just trying to get me to arm wrestle you. I'm not going to do it.
You just humiliate him. It'd be sad. Yeah. Anyway, so there is no difference whatsoever.
That's interesting.
Well, nothing noticeable.
No, because I just don't see that. You'd think you'd start noticing after 2 weeks, but everybody seems, if anything, on the roads, you guys are definitely more polite. Because in the States, at least people I'm around, they'll do everything they can to stop you from, if they need to merge over or something.
No, man.
And I mean, don't get me wrong,
there is road rage certainly, but I think generally in traffic we're pretty good. But then we're renowned for being good at queuing and being polite, so
yeah,
we are. All right. There are certain times and days where everybody obviously just like, nah, piss off. You're not coming in here.
Yeah. Having a bad day. I'm going to make your day worse.
We always try and make it up, don't you? You always no. Oh, you have a day we go, let everyone come in. Be in front of me. I'm not in a rush. Yeah. And everyone behind you, so then bang on horns. Anyway, now it's moving off subject once again. You think that we're all slightly different. What was the thing? You interrupted. I had an amazing question.
My question was just about English people.
Yeah.
Your question... you had one more topic you wanted to say to close with. I can't remember what it was.
Nah, it's dead. We moved on.
Getting that brain of yours. Guns? Something to do with guns?
Probably. I just suppose it doesn't really matter. How's the gun shop way up? In reality?
It's a pretty cool place. It's that's the thing is, I've only been to a couple of gun shops and nothing's huge, but I guess at the same time,
neither's the market.
Neither is the market or the diversity of guns. I mean, that's kind of the thing why you can have really big extensive gun shops in the States is because there's just this much larger
you
diversity
need
of
a load
guns.
for bolt actions, you need a load for ARs, you need shotguns, you need a load for semi-autos, you need probably half the same space for pistols.
Right.
Yeah. Whereas we got shotguns, rifles, and air guns, and a fairly limited selection and limited market for each, obviously.
But much prettier than anything that most stuff that I'm used to. I mean, it's just, I mean, I look at some of the guns down there and they're gorgeous, and I'm like, my first thought is, if having something like that, it's like, what happened if you scratch it? It's like one of those things that you buy a brand new truck. First thing you should do is just go out and scratch the damn thing.
Put it in a hedge,
and just get it over with.
Yeah, the first thing I did with mine, unfortunately, I picked a rotavator up, not rotavator, stump grinder up, and I chucked it in the back and thought, nah, that'd be fine. And driving out of the yard where I hired it from, there was like 3 speed bumps. And I ratcheted it down, not very well. It was my mistake, because I didn't want to like compress the thing, and stupid, new truck, you didn't want to like do anything properly because you might hurt.
Right.
And I put a big old dent in the top of my truck because it rattled over the speed bump and went boom, 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 back on the top of the truck. But yeah, and ever since you just go, oh well, doesn't matter, it can't get much worse than this.
But back to the shop, I also want to thank you guys, all you guys, folks downstairs and everything. I much appreciate the hospitality.
No, mate,
I just
you come a long way.
yeah. But it just feels like, kindred spirits.
Yeah, well, it's sort of one of those things, and it's fascinating. And the problem is you never know who's going to walk through the door. And
right.
As you said, is you never know if someone's going to be what they're like online. It's not a lot of
So this is my
not
question.
lies, right?
How do you feel like Jonny compares to Jonny in the videos, in real life? Is he the same sort of person?
He seems more down to earth in person,
Right.
and more down to earth, more like I'll use one of your terms, a normal bloke, because you almost come off in the videos. I don't know. And don't take this the wrong way.
No, don't get offended.
Everybody's flawed, and I like the fact that I see some flaws in you. Everything in the thing seems to go so well, and you're always so super upbeat. Well, in most of them. Now, I know there was a couple of those more recent videos where, I know with the general licenses and all that stir up and controversy that created, stuff like that can stir emotions. Hell, it stirred emotions in me because of the fact that I can understand where
hunters are like an international thing, aren't they?
Right.
They all feel like if something unjust is happening to wildlife, because we are all wildlife lovers inherently, be it for our own means, which is fine. That's what we've been doing with the planet for the last 100,000 years.
Right.
I see a load of stuff in America, and I'm like, man, that's not right. And I see stuff on the continent happening with the African swine flu, and I go, man, that's just not fair. I feel like I should get involved, even though it will never affect me. Fingers crossed, I never have ASFOV. But Karen, sorry.
Mug him off.
I'm significantly more down to earth and probably more stressy and unhappy in real life.
Yeah.
Yes, well, that's it. Maybe that's it. I did see a couple of those points, and everybody gets that way. And everybody has their points of stress, and that just makes you more human. And that's what makes humans interesting, is that their differouss and their just, because otherwise it would just be because otherwise it would just be damn robots, and life would be pretty freaking boring.
Yeah, the whole grey house, grey car theory.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is why humans can't live like that, because we're just intrinsically totally different people.
Right.
But we can all get on. Isn't that lovely?
It is.
I think I just shed a tear.
Man, that's the first. I didn't know you had emotions.
That was inspirational. Definitely, Jonny is more miserable in real life.
100%, Johnny's more stressed in real life.
Top bloke, as good as they come.
Well, if he wasn't showed some stress in real life, I'd be concerned for his well-being, because then I would think maybe
he's medicated.
He's medicated. Yeah.
Nah, it's been brilliant. We overran, but it's alright. Only about 22 minutes. It's been. I did pretty well. I did very well.
1 hour 40 minutes.
Again, there's a lot of topics we can't touch on, because actually politically there's a huge amount of tension, certainly, and there's a lot of things that we can't even talk about without perhaps being viewed as whatever the phrase is. Things we're probably not supposed to talk about.
Right. Again, I could have put my
yeah.
foot in it with that whole thing with putting more stuff in a registry.
Yeah, but I think there is allowed to be centrism is a great thing, and actually I think seeing both sides of the argument and not just being a staunch, no, they can't have anything, and actually going, perhaps there is a better way, and perhaps you have to give a little bit. Who knows? But hey, that's enough. Or else we're going to go down about 100 more tangents of beer for the rest of the day, because I think this is the shortest conversation we've had since being here, because every other conversation has been about 4.5 hours long, all of which I've thoroughly enjoyed, Dan. Anyway, you're still here for a couple more days, and we're going to go out and hopefully try and shoot something on Friday tomorrow. Fingers crossed.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Take care, man.